A lot to unpack from that. Certainly disappointed in the result. Nebraska's a really good team, and you can't have that type of first half against a team like that. And this game came down to, certainly there's other things, but this game came down to, some 50-50 balls. And we've been the team that's gotten those, and we weren't tonight. And that's probably the most disappointing thing for me. So, we gotta learn from this. It was the message after the game that we need to develop something we've been talking about for an extended period of time. Develop the mentality that we play with when we're potentially trailing or in the second half. We have to have that same mentality the whole game. That's what's required at this level, and we are elite when we play that way. Question we gotta answer and figure out is how do we do that for the whole game.
I do have questions for John and then we'll get Coach. Can you take us through that last sequence? You're pushing the ball up the court. You got it to Tilly for the three, but what were you guys hoping to get there, and how did you see that play unfold?
First and foremost, I would like to thank my Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. Without him, none of this would be possible. But, the play, is to get it to Amari, pitch it back, and for me to make a play. I heard foul, so I threw it up to Tilly real quick so we can get a look for a three. He missed it, unfortunately. So, yeah.
They're talking about, like, you guys need to play the way that you play when things are not going well for the whole game, like what he just said there. What is it going to take for this team to do that? Because you guys have been right there in a lot of games, but this is the fourth time now coming up short like this.
Like Coach said before to us, we just all got to look each other in the mirror, and figure it out. We're a well-connected team, and I feel like we can figure this out together. So, just staying on course, keep doing what we're doing on a daily basis, and it'll come.
John, Coach was talking about the start of the game, the first half, getting in that hole. What was different for you for you guys on the court in the first half as opposed to what you were able to do in the second half?
I would say, when we seen, them go on a little run, a little stretch, our mentality changed, which shouldn't be the case. We should have the same mentality, the full game. But, we just had that fight that we should have had the full game, like Coach said, plenty of times. So I feel like if we had that the full game, it'd be hard for us. It'd be hard to stop us for sure.
This is obviously a third time maybe that you guys have been one possession game there at the end. In your eyes, Jake was obviously just talking about, but on the court, what needs to change to get over that and to be better in those tight games like that?
We just got to get those 50-50 balls. We got plenty of those. That's on all of us. And we just got to value possessions a little bit better, I'll say.
As far as the end there, down to the last play, what were you hoping to get? You had a timeout left. Did you think about using it? What were you hoping would happen?
Yeah, the timeout I wanted to keep in case we got in trouble because we knew they were going to foul, and we felt like we've practiced that play to prevent teams from fouling and be able, as Junie said, to kind of get him on the run so they couldn't foul. I think obviously hindsight. If I had that, I wish I didn't have that timeout left. I wish I had used it to rest us a little bit earlier. I thought we got a little fatigued down the stretch. As far as the end of the game goes, I think Tilly was a little rushed there. If he would have caught it and kind of squared and didn't have anything, then we obviously had it to burn and put them in a situation where the clock is less, where they're less likely to foul. Because by the time that play would have developed, if we're in a foul, so we're shooting, with 5 seconds or under, right? That probability's a lot tougher. So,
Any more questions for John?
Oh, I'm sorry. I don't have any.
John, this is one of the best 2-point field goal defenses in the country, in Nebraska, and they definitely stressed you guys at times when you got close to the rim. What was it? Was it like preparing for them, and how did that match up to reality? Just the size that they have and the way they challenge you at the rim.
We had a key, just having poise in the paint, and try not to drive to that baseline. They like to trap on that baseline drive, so just trying to, bait them, jab them, get back to the middle. Just having poise in the paint is what we worked on, for the past couple of days. So yeah.
In general, did you like, some of the looks you guys were able to generate, even despite kind of the way that they were able to, give you guys issues? Did you like overall some of the shots that you guys got?
I feel like we got some good shots. We also had some bad shots. I had, I had a couple of bad ones today, like the one at the top. I head fake and shot a runner three. That's the poise we're talking about right there. But just like I said before, just valuing. Oh my goodness, valuing valuable possessions like that hurts down the stretch.
Yeah, when you fall behind the first half, that you kind of are going to have to make a run to get back into it. How much energy does that take out of you guys? I know you're young, but when you get to the end of game situations, how hard is that to just maintain?
It takes a lot. Should have never gotten that hole in the first place. That hurts, like I said, down the stretch, with energy-wise. But, it does kind of hurt a lot, being down, when you shouldn't be. So, yeah.
Many thanks. All right, go get some recovery.
Jake, what you were alluding to in your first question, just the way your team handled down the stretch, do you think they lost their poise? I know you've said that before. You said in the Illinois game that they lost their poise in that game. Did you think the team lost the poise?
No, I don't think it was a lack of poise. I think in that moment on the last shot, that was rushed. But, we executed the ball down the floor, anticipating a foul really well. So up to that point, right, that's where we maybe need to just evaluate that decision. But it's outside of that, to get back into that situation, we had to do a lot right. I think them getting and ones, and us not getting those 50-50 balls or offensive rebounds, that hurts. You look at our ability as a team to execute and score in those situations, sometimes even without timeouts. Right, and I think that speaks to how our team is prepared, and they do have poise. So sometimes it's a bounce. North Carolina, guys falling down, ball. We just missed the ball. Ball bounces towards him. Sometimes it is, and we lacked a little poise when we were breaking the press against them. But for the most part, I don't think it's been a poise issue. We're just we're one shot away that we got to step up and hit, or we're one loose ball that we got to step up and get, or one rebound that we got to make sure we have. And that's life in the Big Ten. That ultimately, right, is what games come down to. But again, we didn't lose the game down the stretch this game. This game was, we had bigger issues in the first half and then some 50-50 balls in the second half.
Yeah, there's two ways to look at this. One, you're right in the game with no bench points. The other side of it is you got to get more out of your bench, I would think. You just can't keep going.
Yeah, it's something that we're searching for there. And listen, I think we have some guys who have had some better moments. I actually, Brandon was really good last game. He's been more aggressive. I'm sure you guys will have questions about him. We got to evaluate him and kind of see where he's at. We tried to do an evaluation at halftime, and we'll get him looked at and get some answers there. I think Gabe has done better. He's done a better job of not fouling as much, but he's got to be aggressive offensively, and we got to find a way certainly to get some more production out of our bench, and we're trying to find a way to do that, and so. I told those guys, I want you to be aggressive. like when I'm looking out there and I see guys not aggressive, that's when I want to like sub someone else in. You know, we can't go out there and play safe. I mean, you look at kind of like our plus minus, that's important. So we need production, we need rebounding, we need points, certainly. I have great confidence that, you know, some of these guys are going to like someone's going to emerge. We're going to have a couple guys that are going to emerge and step up, and that will unlock something for us. In the meantime, you know, if we're slow to do that, I gotta look at using some timeouts earlier to create some rest, and I think that's on me to do, right? I used one kind of when Bruce hit the ground to give us a chance to catch our breath and extend the media timeout. We got a long break there, right? We had the timeout, quick turn, media timeout. So I got to look to do that a little bit more, I think. And we got some high level belief in some guys, and it feels like I got more belief in them than they do right now. And they gotta step up, and they will, because they're working hard. Like this team does not lack work. We just got to play a little more aggressive and a little more assertive earlier in the game.
Coming up, you're going to the West Coast for 2 games, and it's a really quick turnaround. I mean, like you're leaving probably tomorrow or the next day.
Tomorrow.
Tomorrow. Is the hope that this is the kind of a trip where you guys just have to come together? I mean, is that kind of what – I know that you're coming right off this game, but is that – it seemed like that's something that happened last year when you went out there and went 1-1 in those 2 games. Just what's your thought, I guess, about what this opportunity is for you guys out there?
Yeah, listen, we've had an NBA stretch. I won't even necessarily call it a tough stretch because other teams are going through it. We've gone coast to coast, and we're going to play 4 games in whatever it is, 9 days maybe. So, yeah, like it's not ideal, but it happens, okay? Other teams are going to face it. I don't think this team needs to come closer together, Steve, to be honest with you. Like this is a really close group. It's a really close group, and they care a lot about each other, and they spend a lot of time together. I think, you know, we just have to develop more of just this kind of nastiness on the court that we play with when we're trailing. And, you know, I got to figure out a way, and our leaders on our team got to help figure out a way for us to do that. And that's the missing piece right now. That like we're playing well enough and fighting, you know, hard enough to beat some of the, you know, elite teams in the country right now. And we have a capability to be a really, really good team, and we've shown that for stretches. But what I'm trying to get us to understand is you have to bring that mentality for the whole game. And we will, because you have to in this league. And we got another opportunity here Thursday. You know, got another opportunity Thursday to do it.
Team's thirsting for help off the bench. What can Griasic, Chapman, Jagovan, what can those guys do to put themselves in position to help this team? Because it feels like, you're thirsting for anything off that bench. Yeah,
and you know, I got to look at kind of who we're giving the opportunity to, certainly, but we got to think, like when guys are in, they got to be aggressive. They got to be aggressive. I had a conversation with some guys and told them, like, you're going in the game and you're passing up open shots. You're going in the game and you're hesitating. That's not helping us win. And so we're looking for you know, a few guys to add that. So that I want aggressiveness. I want guys to be aggressive, and that's what we're looking for. And you know, you got to show that. You got to show that in practice. You got to, when you're out there in the game, you got to show that as well.
You talk about kind of the different mindset when you guys get down, and you can see it out on the court. But what is that conversation like in the huddle? How is it different when you guys look up and you're down 15 and then you go on those runs? What is the mindset of the team and that aggressiveness versus when you go out, start a game, and kind of find yourself, you know, sloppy and slow?
Yeah, well, I think, you know, I guess to be specific, you usually see an increase in physicality. You usually see, like, you know, an increase in ball pressure. Like, there's some technical things you can look for, and you know, that's part of our game plan to start the game. So, you know, I challenged, you know, our guys after that first media timeout and just said, like what are we doing? This is not who we are in practice. This is not how we play and prepare. And so I think there's stretches where when we lack physicality, we lack some kind of ball pressure, and you see some of the communication breakdowns. Those are signs that we don't have that like aggressive attack mode mentality that we've shown for other stretches.
Talk about we're now into January. Is there a shift with the team that you go from, obviously we're no longer in the young season or trying to figure out yourselves, versus, hey, now we've got to go. March is 2 months away. Is there any conversation with the team about that, especially as you go on the road trip?
Yeah, I mean, I talked about it after the game. This was a missed opportunity. Like there's no denying that. We also here's the truth. This was a missed opportunity, and we got a bunch of other opportunities coming up. Like that's life in the Big Ten. Okay, we have to keep getting better. Yes, there's no denying that. But we also got to take advantage of the opportunities in front of us, and we have 18 left. Like you look at everything is going to be a quad 1, quad 2, maybe like most likely by the end of the season, right? So we got a lot of opportunities left. It's disappointing we let one slip away tonight, but like we can't sulk about it. We got to hop on a plane and go get ready to take advantage of the next opportunity, and then you got to get ready to take advantage of the next opportunity. So you can't get too high or low. But listen, we coach and speak in truth in our program. Like it's not a moral victory here, but it was a missed opportunity. We own that. We'll get ready for the next one.
Got out-rebounded again tonight, Jake. I guess some of the offseason additions, getting bigger over the offseason, that was kind of a big part of trying to get more boards. At this point in the season, now you got some Big Ten competition out of the way, and some other Power 4 games. How do you evaluate that?
Yeah, that was certainly a game within the game that was really disappointing too. Those were some of those 50-50 balls we talked about, right? There was, again, like we had last game, and that's where it's little things like this, and this is where we're not really, like we're right there, is we watch film on Rutgers, we see ourselves, okay, not being physical. We see ourselves turning and staring at the ball, right? And we made that same mistake some tonight. And that's where it's like, that's where we have to look ourselves in the mirror and own that. Like that's a controllable thing. This is not a team that was sending 4 or 5 guys to the glass like Illinois was. But, like we talked about, Hoiberg, like that guy comes up with some big time extra possession plays. And we thought it was part of the scout. And there were a couple times where we got caught, shot goes up, we look, and that guy flew by us, or we ran in, deep shot, say all the time in our program, long shot equals long rebound. And, there were a couple times, team who shoots a ton of threes, we talked about it, you can't run into the paint. You got to carve out space so you can rebound down the floor. And that hurt us a couple times. So that's good catch, because that was one of the things that, looking at the stat sheet initially stood out to me was we had, and they were some costly ones too. I mean, the 3 they hit off on was big.
Jake, your starters, Tilly and Bynum, 9 and 8 points. I think in Big Ten play, we talk a lot about guys that are adjusting to that. One's freshman, one's doing this for the first time. Do you think that's affecting some of them a little bit, just trying to get used to this now only, I guess the 4th game into conference play?
I think, in general, the size and physicality of the league is typically different. Now, we tried, we had a stretch of 5 straight high major games, so I don't really feel like that period's kind of come and gone. We can't forget Amari's a young player. He's playing veteran minutes, right? He's a young player who, I've spoke about this. He finds a way to be productive, but he's still a young player. And he's going to continue to get better because, I've also spoken about this, the way he approaches the game. And so great confidence in him getting better. I think, with Tilly, he's playing more minutes than he's ever played in his career. I felt like, again, reflecting back, I should have used a timeout earlier. Used one of my timeouts probably somewhere, without looking at the film, somewhere probably between the 3:30 and 2:30 mark, because he was gassed, and that's where we got to figure out rotation. We got to figure out who can. I think Brandon, being out hurt. We tried to get Avon in earlier, when we felt like we had a favorable matchup in the first half, and till he missed those free throws when we sent him to the table. So got great confidence in Tilly. He's a huge part of the success we've had this season. He's going to be huge part of the success we have the rest of the season. But I think for him and he and I gotta talk through and just figure out, right, what's kind of that sweet spot for minutes, and so he can be his best.
You're talking about taking the time out. Is that still something you are learning, especially now with a team with maybe a shallower bench, as still a relatively young head coach, that, hey, there are moments that you're still figuring out things that maybe a guy who's done this for years and years knows, hey, this is the moment I got to do this just instinctually?
I think really good coaches adjust to their team, right? This team's different than last year's team. I think there's a great deal of value having timeouts at the end of game. And, I know who this team is. And, I think in that moment, I've certainly, in a year and a half and some change a year before, I like to save timeouts. And I think with this team, until we can get some guys from our bench to step up, I gotta use maybe one earlier. I did once, and again, hindsight, I think I should have used another one. So I don't know if it's necessarily, lack of my experience. I think it's. I certainly have worked for guys, whether it's Thad Mata or Bryce Drew, who save timeouts. I like that. It's kind of who I am. It's part of the, coaching trees I've come from. But this team, I think, in this game I needed to make that adjustment, and I missed that opportunity because my tendency is to save them. Yeah.
Jake, when you're talking about those 50-50 balls that you think that you guys typically get, today you weren't the ones that got them, and you're talking about the technique of offensive rebounding, but I know part of it also is the want. It's the effort to want to be the one with the ball. How do you coach the effort? Is that a habit that has to be formed in the summer? Is that a habit that can be during the season? How do you coach the effort and the want to be the ones that come up with those?
Yeah, great question. Well, I think you're certainly it's part of playing hard and playing tough. I believe, and what we believe in this program is part of our DNA. It's part of our culture. So that's something we talk about, work on, right from the moment we get together. I don't think this team has a playing hard issue. I think we have a tendency at times to get caught ball watching. It's something we talk about and work on. I think we also at times, we have a couple guys who relax when they're we'll guard really, really hard that ball. And this is a team that makes you pay when you do. You relax off the ball for a split second, and now you're a step or two out of position. So sometimes it's as simple as that. You're a couple steps out of position to go hit your man, or you're a couple steps out of position to be there to close out on the three. So that this team doesn't have a play hard issue, I don't think. I think we got guys who play hard. We got a competitive group. It's something we were very intentional about kind of bringing in when we put this team together. And I think we have a tough group. I just think we're lacking, and it's a value, playing with urgency is to the core of who we are and should be. And for some reason, we're just not doing that the entirety of the game. That's where I think we're missing on a couple of those tonight. I think it was more of a little bit of an urgency. I mean, our guys want it. They want to win. They're playing hard. You could maybe make an argument again. We had a couple guys maybe who were fatigued. I think that's real. But yeah, don't question our effort. I don't question our 1-2 at all. That's why when I tell our guys, like, we are right there against, some, top 10 teams in the country. Like, if it was an effort or or something like that, I'd be lying to them if I said that, right? So it's not those things. It's just a tad bit more urgency, and we'll take care of business and finish it on our end.
When we talked to Fred, he complimented the changes you made to speed them up in the second half. What adjustments did you try to make things more difficult for them at the offensive end in the second half?
Yeah, we needed to up our ball pressure to try and create some turnovers. And, I think offensively, when we played with pace in the first half, we lacked some discipline in our running lanes. We had much better spacing in the second half when we played with pace. At least it felt like. We talked about, getting kind of reorganized in that regard and running with a purpose. So, yeah, we certainly, part of it was we were trailing, but part of it was it's kind of who we are is, we like to be able to certainly in spurts change the pace of the game. And, it was important for us in the second half. I mean, shoot 54% against that defense in the second half it's good. The problem is we let them shoot 50 in the first half, right? And we didn't finish like we're capable of. I mean, we missed a lot of paint shots. Now, part of that is who they are, but you look at, like, they're not out there blocking a ton of shots. They play with great physicality and technique at the rim. And we get just that's where the poise I talked about, that I think John talked about, like, we played a little sped up in the paint on some of those finishes that I get to see us make, really every day and most of the year. So we'll get better from it. We'll again, missed opportunity, not denying that. That's the truth. But the truth is we also got a whole lot of big opportunities coming up, and including this next one that we got to get ready for.
You mentioned Brandon, but Bruce has been taking a beating the last several games, and I know he looked like he was maybe limping a little bit, slow to get up a couple times. I'm sure some of that's fatigue, but, like, what is he dealing with, and how's he coming through it, and how important is he for you guys to keep him on the floor?
Well, it's of the utmost importance, right? He's one of the things that makes him so special is how he takes care of himself, the time he spends on getting himself ready every day and all of that stuff. I think, there were times where I went to sub him, but we actually got to the timeout. And so, that's one of the areas I've looked to try to give him a little bit of a breather is dead balls close to media timeouts coming. And we went to do that. I think it was maybe once in the first half, once in the second half, and we got the timeout there quickly. So felt like he was good. He kept saying he was good, but he plays with a physicality. This is a physical league. He certainly got hit on some of his finishes and ended up on the ground. That's why I used one of the timeouts so they didn't have a fast break and to get him a little bit of a breather. So he's tough. He's resilient. Got some. It's part of what makes him really special. All right, thanks, guys.